Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms.
What up, my glip-glops?
If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
What's a glip-glop?
Gina!
I'm Kim.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Josh.
You're not Josh.
Alrighty, what are we going over today, Zach?
We are going over The Boy Who Drew Cats by Lafcadio Hearn.
I like cats.
Wouldn't want to say that name 3 times
It's a
fast.
favorite short story of mine. I discovered it in 75 short
He wears
masterpieces.
short shorts. Just kidding.
So, what are we talking about in this particular piece?
Okay, the question is, would you classify this story as a fairy tale? What kind of fairy tale elements do you believe this work possesses?
Magical powers.
I think that what it possesses is that everybody should have the opportunity to do what they want and excel at their talents, and the general necessities of life should not necessarily have to stop them.
And I'm going to say something along the lines like that, if I may. It might contradict, but still. I loved it. That's just, I'm going to flat say, I loved it. 5 stars. But still. And the Irish, now, bear with me with this. The Irish were known to have a lot of children. And they had the farms. Here's where I'm going with this. This boy had to be he was too young and too weak. He was not strong enough to work the farms. What are you talking about? This boy is sent to the seminary, the monastery, to become a priest. He doesn't want to. He wants to draw and just use artistic. He doesn't want to go and have to preside the mass, do vespers, etc., etc. Here's what happens. Usually it'd be the youngest or second youngest. They would be going to the seminary to become a priest because they get the free education, everything is free because now of course you have to pay for it to go and become a priest, but still you were kind of forced into it. And then once you're a priest, you have that you can't go home, you can't go back.
It was either you were a doctor or a priest.
You are either a doctor.
And the boy in this book was not fit to be a doctor.
He was not fit to be any. Well,
so
it's not nice.
they tested him out to become a priest, but he would rather draw cats.
Yeah, nope, that's why there's a cat drawn here. Ah, all right. But still, you did that? I like it. Beautiful. We'll name it Dallas. Because I have a friend, she's a few years older than me, she had a cat named Dallas. He was a real brat, hated me. Not going down
I have 10 cats. Just throwing that out there.
5 indoor
Rest in
cats
peace,
and
Dallas.
several of them in the yard.
I have 10 indoor cats.
This cat was mean.
So, I would definitely classify this as a fairy tale. I actually first encountered this story is referenced in a children's novel called Wild Things by Clay Carmichael. She mentioned it because there was a part in the book where the main character encountered a boy who couldn't talk, and I think he encountered this story and read it. And the book also involves cats and a heavy thing, so it was nice to finally read the story, and I liked it a lot because it's not needlessly gory and kind of with unfortunate implications like a lot of the old fairy tales. Reading the original Sleeping Beauty was really fun in my writing children's stories class. It's like a Lifetime movie. Anyway, what I liked about this is basically about a boy who doesn't do what's expected of him, but finds a way to save the day on his own, which is something I'm sure many readers can relate to, as writers generally are kind of disappointing their parents in some ways a lot of the time by not choosing something where you can actually make money.
And that's what you would have to do.
Artistic careers are not always the thing that makes your
humanities.
Yeah, that's just not always gonna make your parents happy, especially if your mom wants you to be a nurse, like my mom did.
Or a doctor.
Or that.
Or a lawyer.
So it's all like that. So there's that. He saves the world. He saves the place. I forget the details in his own way by doing his thing, and it shows that despite what a lot of people say about the arts not mattering, that they really do in the right situation. Because people can say about how tech jobs are where it's at, but what do you do when you come home from your tech job? You put on TV, you read a book, you watch a movie. That's what you do. So
and then what happens? How do you get all that? Yeah, you got the technical, but you need somebody has to come up with the plot. And if I may, I'm I play drums. For those of you that are have seen this show for
I, for
so
one, am
many.
shocked to learn that information.
I know, right? Where I went to school, football, sports, and a lot of schools, it's always the football team and the sports. Great. Stop cutting stuff from the band, because the band, believe it or not, and I'm speaking because I'm a former band member and John Philip Sousa Award recipient, big thing. Look it up. Actually, you can find me on, I don't know. Well, maybe. You can find me on Google, but still.
Oh, you mean like the schools that prioritize their sports
Yes.
over providing the right environment for their special education children, even though...
and yet they're cutting
even
out
if
the
it
band
means
program.
sending
Stop
them
cutting out the
to other
band.
places?
Still, yeah. And basically what I'm saying is, go for it. Have the football, have the sports, yes, rah, 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 rah. But also, don't be so quick to cut band and orchestra, because there are people who are aspiring to become musicians, and still, you should have that mutual respect for each other.
And it shouldn't be deemed as a fault, like
Exactly.
it did in the tale.
Well, yeah,
Either.
Anyone else have anything to say?
I would definitely say this is a fairy tale, because even though I think most so-called American fairy tales are generally offshoots of other cultures anyway.
Exactly.
This particular fairy tale, though, it has that element of, first of all, it has that mystical element, the cats come alive. Second of all, it has a moral. I think it's very important, as some of these people have already said. I see an issue with a lot of schools today. They're like, the sole focus is on academics. It's only like math, science, English. That's the sole focus. And the kid who doesn't excel in those is the dunce. People don't know that kid might have other talents, but people see that kid as stupid and failing, and they'll make it harder for him to get into a college so he can do what he wants to do, simply because he's not shining in the area where you want him to shine.
Some people aren't meant for college. Some of them,
Or not
VOTEC.
necessarily,
VOTEC is better for them.
not necessarily college, but even like training, it can be hard to do that with a low GPA. So they make it that much harder. Some of the most intelligent and talented people are not really the ones who get straight A's on their report cards. And this is coming from somebody who was, someone who's a straight A student who
Congratulations.
earned the anger of pretty much everybody else in her class in middle school, because, oh boy, she's such a nerd. She thinks she's all that. And also, I relate to this main character because people always told me when I was a kid, I was always a kid who had way too much imagination, was making up stories. People always told me, like, Gina, you need to stop making up so many stories. You need to focus on your education, get your head out of the clouds, stop thinking about all these weird things that don't exist. And
Well, they say, I'm sorry.
Those people have a purpose in life. It's the meek that inherit the earth.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I didn't do well because I wasn't a math person, and it got me really bummed out because the high school I went to was
Don't
very.
anything in the science lab. The
people in my high school were very science and math oriented a lot of the time. I always did well in English and writing, so I was miserable for a while. Then I go to college, I study writing, I graduate with a 3.995 GPA.
It depends on the particular class, because I think I was fortunate enough to come across people that were English history people as opposed to math science. But it's all mixed up.
Yes.
It's just frustrating because people act like art doesn't matter, and this story is basically about, hey, art does matter, and you do your thing. And I like this moral because it's not, oh, be a good and righteous person in a very narrowly defined way, and all good things will happen to you. It's if you do what you love in a way that helps people in ways that they might not think to do it, then you're going to be the hero, and that's cool. That's cool to know. And I think people, especially people on the autism spectrum, such as myself, and I assume most of my other panelists.
Is everybody okay with making mention?
yeah, I'm autistic, and
Everybody on this panel has Asperger's.
Woo!
I've had college professors. One, Josh, and we had the same simultaneously. When I presented him with a 504, basically just extended time on tests with clarification direction, He's like, what? Because you probably don't even know it because I come off, I'm a goofball, but I'm on the high end. There's a spectrum, okay? I'm not brilliant, and I have to wear Velcro on my shoes. Like, I can pull science and math because those are the people on, not necessarily on the lower end of the spectrum. They can't tie their shoes. They can still. However, he couldn't believe it. He's like, you're autistic? I'm like, well, I'm on the spectrum. I have Asperger's. And he's like, well,
How are we on time?
He could not figure it out. And he had 2 PhDs, I think.
5 minutes.
Okay.
It's very patronizing when people say like, "Oh, you don't look autistic."
I hate that. That's the worst thing. But
And
I
you know
think.
what?
I think we're digressing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we are.
I think that this, like, if you're if you're outside of the norm model, then you probably will connect to this story in a lot of ways that others may not.
We live in a world where anything that doesn't fit this very narrow margin of what's normal is people hate and fear anything that they see as abnormal. So
They're just uncomfortable by it. I'm not sure if it is hatred. It may be a discomfort or sometimes intolerance.
And some people are just arrogant. They don't want to put up with it, But I've had many people say to me, like, you don't look it, you don't fit the part. And I said,
And it's
well,
funny how they
Because
say
there's
that,
multiple kinds of parts and people don't know it. But anyway, back to cats.
yes, cats. It was a great play in the 80s.
my thoughts.
Better than Arlene Sardine, that's for darn sure.
That is quite something. I would say, do we want to rate this on the 0 to 5 scale?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to rate something that's that short and not accompanied by illustrations. And it's a fairy tale. They're you can't really rate them the same way that you rate other kinds of stories. In my opinion, you can rate collections of short stories. This is just me going off on a tangent. Just FYI, whatever. Anyway, I just think it was good. And, well, I'm not sure about the authenticity of the translation because this is kind of an old fairy tale, and America in the 1900s had this weird fascination with Asian countries that wasn't always respectful. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's like an authentic translation or if they sanitized it in a lot of ways. But as it is, I think it's a pretty good story.
I agree that the story it delivers its message quite well, and
I think
it has that fairy tale element, especially with how the purpose that the cats had once they were drawn, and he was in the small place.
I'll just rate it. I'll probably give it like maybe a 3.5, and it was the delivery of the message, as you said, it was right on the nose, and I found it very relatable.
Already.
Well, I'm going to give it a 5 as well, but
I would say
sure,
4.5 because
4.5? Okay.
it has that the message lingers, but
No, yeah, you're right, it does. It's still, there's very good people out there.
yeah, I don't know. And Kim, do you?
I'm not rating because if it's not its own listing on Goodreads, there's no reason to give it a rating.
I wouldn't rate it on Goodreads, but because it's just I had rated the collection 75 short masterpieces.
Well, I would have rated that.
Which, if you're interested, you can find that here. You can find that in many Barnes and Noble.
75.
I could not find a listed translator for this particular version of The Boy Who Drew Cats. So, if I do find a translator, I will leave their name down below. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.
Follow me on Goodreads if you want to guess.
I'll leave them down below too.